Welcome to the Left Independent. I am Michael, the Left Independent, coming to you from Cleveland, Ohio, and testing out some StreamYard settings. But yeah, I wanted to do a recording with my co-host Andre Morton for the A&M network, but unfortunately he's going through some stuff, so I am just recording here. So I want to keep this kind of short this evening. I am recording this at night on February 24th, 2025, and we are talking about a couple of things. One is a little bit old by news media settings, but it has to do with some things that are going on this past weekend with regards to the German elections. So let's go ahead and get ourselves to the day. We've got let's see, we've got yeah, let's go ahead and share this because we've got Elon Muskrat, and this is yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and sorry, I'm kind of figuring this out, but yeah, let's go ahead and get to the first story. So Elon Muskrat is basically Caligula Drumpf. So we had a little situation here. In fact, let me go ahead and come here to YouTube that shows a little bit of context. So Muskrat's brat went ahead and was telling Caligula Drumpf during a press conference to shut up and that he needs to go away. So let's go ahead and play the video here.
Restore democracy. This is for one is to restore democracy. This is from one year to the next are the same, and they're partnership with the agency heads, and I checked regularly with the president to make sure that these.
Yeah, I'm just going to pause you right here. A psychopath who really should not be allowed to reproduce because he decided he's going to call his son. I have no idea how you even pronounce this, but the kid is 4 years old and he doesn't even have a proper name. He's got what Muskrat thought was a clever logo or symbol or equation, much like Prince tried back in the 90s that went rather disastrously, forcing him to go back to calling himself Prince because no one wanted to call him by whatever weird symbol he had chosen. So, this Muskrat, because he thinks he's going ahead and pulling all this shit. But, this kid is already well on his way to being raised by his sperm donor to be a psychopath.
We're going to be signing a very important deal today. It's Doge, and I'm going to ask Elon to tell you a little bit about it.
This is from one year to the next are the same, and they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. Part of this presidency is to restore democracy. Okay, we'd have to if you sorry. So gravitas can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah. So just so you understand exactly where this is coming from.
You know President Trump?
Yeah.
Well, you have.
Yeah. Foreign space acts and quietly just do whatever we want.
what's your assessment? Did this work? Is he going to win?
Yeah. It is. Not for now. No.
I think it's done. You think it's done?
Yeah.
But not for now.
No.
I'm looking at the data as it comes in from every county in Pennsylvania. We help President Trump.
Yeah.
Well, you have.
Yeah,
You
so-
have. Yeah.
So yeah, I want to just kind of think about it. You know that movie Pet Cemetery back in 1989 as Sid Kim as the protagonist. Spoilers for people who haven't seen it, but yeah, it's about discovers a plot of land. Anything you bury in it comes back to life, except it's not the same anymore. It's like kind of possessed by an evil, malignant entity. And first he buries the family pet cat, comes back to life, all possessed and evil, and trying to kill its owner. And Fred Gwynn, in one of his final screen roles, plays a neighbor who warns him about the plot of land, and said that the Native Americans who had previously used it stopped burying their dead there because people kept rising up by and warped and twisted of their living selves, although they could still be killed by conventional means. So they weren't exactly vampires or zombies or anything like that. They were just like revenants who were possessed or something. Dale Midkiff's little boy run over by a truck, and so Dale Midkiff's character buries his son in the plot of land, and the kid rises up and becomes a homicidal maniac who's like giggling and all this stuff. And this is exactly what Muskrat is doing. Doing that, where he is essentially he's essentially reminding me of that, like that giggling little psychopath from Pet Cemetery, and really this is kind of a really disturbing tell as to who's actually running the Drumpf regime, because we just came out of like 4 years of completely senile Joe Biden, completely off his rocker, not really in charge of his own regime, essentially having things dictated. As a boy is so far gone mentally, he couldn't even speak without the aid of a teleprompter. Anytime he got too tired, he started going off his rocker and started spewing nonsense, revealing that he wasn't exactly all there. And we knew about this for 4 years. All right. So we had a 4-year, the guy who was supposed to be the head of the executive branch of the United States government was not actually running anything. It was controlled by his advisors, his cabinet members, Anthony Blinken, Jake Sullivan, people like that. Not even Holocaust Harris was really running anything. Both were who can't even speak without the aid of a teleprompter, that they just go off on incoherent rambling anytime they were caught without that to guide them and tell them what to say. So now we're in a similar situation where the guy who was supposed to be in charge of the executive branch, in this case Caligula Drumpf, back after a 4-year hiatus, is not in charge of his own regime. Elon Muskrat is in charge, and he is the guy making all the decisions, and he's the one meeting with foreign heads of state, and he is the one who is dictating policy, and Drumpf is just basically there taking up space and being interrupted by a 4-year-old who is telling him that he's not the president, that he needs to shut up and go away and get off of his sperm donor's desk. And because Muskrat is not a father, he's a sperm donor. father. He doesn't meet any of the qualifications that would make him an actual father to anyone. So Muskrat is really the one in charge of the country. It's pathetic, but that's where we are. Which, unfortunately, brings us to where we're headed here, because we are not even close to being we're in a good place. Let's see now. We've got another one here on. I read another theory on Elon's mass email from a retired Google guy. They had to do the same exercise at Google, and it was used to train their AI. They think Elon might use this data to improve AI for his business. Now, this is regards to on Friday. Muskrat sent out an email to government employees giving them a 48-hour deadline by end to list 5 bullet points of what they did all last week, and if they don't answer, that will be taken as a resignation. So this is kind of Muskrat's approach to shaking things up at the corporate level, saying you have amount of time to justify your continued employment here, otherwise I will consider this your resignation, which will mean that they don't get any unemployment benefits because they're considered to have resigned rather than been fired or laid off. Well, that's not exactly how this works. Government employees do have some protections, even if they're not but it's basically one in charge of the federal government. He is ineligible because he's not born in the United States, and therefore is not a natural born citizen. In fact, he's actually an illegal immigrant. He lied on his student visa, apparently, in order to get here, so he really is not even here legally. Of course, he was granted citizenship anyway, but no one elected this guy to the Oval Office. He does not have any official cabinet level position within the Oval Office. He was not approved by the Senate, which is supposed to be the body in charge of approving cabinet appointments. So Muskrat really isn't even supposed to be involved in government. And yet he's the one sending out emails to government employees saying that they have X amount of time to justify their continued employment. Otherwise, they will be considered to have resigned so that the government doesn't have to pay them unemployment benefits. He's the one declaring we're firing all these people, and they're going ahead and laying off people they can't really afford to fire, like people at the CDC or people at the Department of Energy in charge of the nuclear security protocols. So, yeah, and of course, because they fired these people and locked them out of their government emails, they're scrambling to try and hire them back and don't know how to get a hold of them because for some reason they don't have any idea what their personal email addresses are, or personal phone numbers. So yeah, these guys are really proving just how incompetent they are, which brings us to the next thing, because Elon Muskrat has been trying to control the outcome of the in Germany, and he actually made some disturbing progress. So I will go ahead and bring you to the following, which yeah, so let's just go ahead and get this here. Let's see. So yeah, we've got, let's see, we've got the German elections. So Olaf Scholz, who had been the Chancellor of Germany until this weekend, decided to hold snap elections because he was under a threat of no confidence vote. He is the head of the Social Democratic Party, or SPD, which decided, okay, we've been running things for some years now, and we are really not supposed to be getting involved in the war in Ukraine, but we're going to go ahead and do that anyway. So the economy of Germany has been, let's just say, not going very well. The sanctions against Russia have actually backfired, and so now we've got a situation where the economy in Germany is in a downturn. Manufacturing is down. Fuel shortages are happening. So, the Christian Democratic Union and its Christian Social Union counterpart, led by Friedrich Merz, gained in the polls. It is now the ruling party. And Muskrat backed the fascist AfD party in Germany, which is called Alternative for Germany. It is basically a rebranded version of the Nazi Party, except instead of targeting Jews, it's targeting Muslims. Very nationalist, white platform that is targeting immigration, obviously against LGBTQIA people. Well, so are all of the right wing in Germany, but also targeting immigration, targeting green energy, very scary stuff if you go on their platform and read it. So this weekend they held snap elections, and the CDU slash CSU came in first place with 28.6%, and the AfD came in at 20.8%. So neither party really has enough to form a governing coalition. You have to have like 30% in order to have a ruling party that has no real opposition. So the probable scenario here, because the Green Party, which got 11.6%, was part of the coalition government with the SPD, but now it is in fourth place. SPD is now in third place. Now, in order to hold off a coalition government with the AfD, CDU is probably going to form a coalition government with the SPD and maybe throw a couple of bones to the Greens just to try and keep their center-right coalition together and shut out the AfD. But we do have some interesting here, because the left party, or Die Linke, which is spelled DIELINKE, got 8.8% of the vote. Now, in order to be able to come into the government, you have to have above 5%. So the more leftist or centrist left, BSW and others, came in each at under 5%, so they will not be allowed into the government. But the left has 8%, and so will have seats in the German parliament. So, or Doug or something like that. So the big winner in terms of voter gains was the right-wing AfD, which nearly doubled its vote share. The center-left Social Democrats, or SPD, led by Olaf Scholz, recorded not only its worst result in a federal election, but also its largest votes compared to previous elections. The neoliberal Free Democratic Party, or FDP, all of which from the coalition triggered the snap election, also suffered heavy losses. The party will not enter the Bundestag after failing to meet the 5% threshold. And then this goes ahead and shows you the distribution of Germany's parliament. So what we're going to have here, and also there had been something like 733 seats, now reduced to 630 after some dealing to try and limit the size of the government, because 80 million people, which frankly shouldn't really matter. Proportional representation, the number of representatives, but hey, ask yourself what happened in the United States after we limited our government to just 535 members of Congress. 435 in the House, and then 100 in the Senate, because the Senate, you get 2 people from each of the 50 states. So that is designed to limit how many people can serve in government, and therefore make it easier for corporations to buy off politicians. So, yeah. So while the CDU, CSU have won the largest share of votes, they don't hold an absolute majority. The party is set to win 208 seats in the Bundestag. It'll need to enter a coalition with another party to secure 316 seats, the minimum for a majority, and form the next government. So the CDU has ruled out a coalition with this AFD, suggesting that it is the firewall to the far right. That leaves a 2-way grand coalition SPD, or a 3-way coalition that includes the Greens as the most likely option. The final seat is the coalition calculator, coalition, and then of course it shows the breakdown here. So CDU would have 208, SPD has 120. So if they combined forces, that would bring it to the minimum 316 seat total needed to form a ruling coalition. And if they bring the Greens in, then obviously that will, but unfortunately, having, more political parties within the coalition creates more instability, because if either of the major parties that are included decide, oh yeah, we're not going to remain here in this coalition because we don't think you're doing what we want you to, then that results in another snap election. So but this is pretty disturbing, because Muskrat did in fact by himself a lot of influence in the AFD. Like I said, they're a fascist, essentially the rebranded Nazi party in Germany that Muskrat was basically promoting as the only hope for Germany's future. So right now we've got a situation where the CDU slash CSU will likely have to form a governing coalition with the SPD and possibly the Greens in order to maintain the status quo and keep Germany involved in the Ukraine war against Russia. So yeah, we're talking some major league changes here that really do not amount to much, because at the end of the day, yeah, you've still got a lot of stuff going on that really shouldn't be happening. But this is another point that has to be said, and let me go ahead and show you that. I do hate that this is happening. All right, so Holly Blomberg over on Twitter, you might want to give her a follow, by the way. But CDU, CSU head of that party is Friedrich Merz, but he's also the former head of BlackRock's Germany division, and the far right party, former Goldman Sachs banker Alice Weidel won 20.8%. So yeah, Alice Weidel, head of the AFD party, is a former Goldman Sachs banker. So either way, you've got corporate stooges or corporate executives coming in to run the government directly, as opposed to actually just buying off politicians. So this is something that you really want to keep that in mind going into the government here, because the more that this takes place, the worse it is, because you've already got having bought himself the president and behaving as a de facto United States instead of the guy who was actually elected to the position. And then the head of BlackRock Germany division is now set to run Germany. So that Muskrat is basically telling private in front of his very impressionable 4-year-old that he's the one actually in charge of the U.S. executive branch, and not the guy who was actually elected there, is really something that we need to keep in mind, because if you think he's going to be with the United States, no, he's trying to take and run both countries. So Nazi America, Nazi Germany, and he's trying to set himself to be the de facto leader of both countries. So yeah. I hope you've made plans to leave. Still can, because if you are able to leave, you might want to think about do that. Not able to leave. Sorry, I'm not able to leave either right now. So I'm here right with you, and I will continue to be here with you for as long as I can. But yeah, things are going to be getting so much worse over the next 4 years, because the guy in the Oval Office who was elected to the position after the Democrats wasted 4 years doubling down on all his worst policies is not in charge of his own regime. We have not had a chief executive in charge of his own regime since Barry Obama left in January of 2017. I want you to think about that. Anyway, this is Michael, the Left Independent, signing out. Good night and good luck.